Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, Spyro, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, and most notably, Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. If any of these games ring a bell, then Monkey King might have been on your radar. It's very similar to all these, and I'm about to tell you for better or for worse. My name is Tanner, and this is For Your Money. Monkey King, a game about a monkey with some kind of accent, a basic hero's journey complex, and damn, another load screen? We're going to dive right into the story. Your character Da Shang has been frozen for abusing his power, battling everything from mighty foes to the heavens themselves. He has been frozen for 500 years, and now a child named Lure stumbled into a cave and fell on the block of ice you were encased in, causing the ice to crack, and the Monkey King himself is now freed. Upon release, you learn that your powers have been taken from you until you can prove yourself to Jingu Chen that you're a better person and that you can help those in need. And those in need happen to be the village children who have been taken to be a part of a life-threatening ritual. You're probably wondering how I could compare this game to Enslaved. Well, these two are based off the same 16th century Chinese novel, Journey to the West, meaning Monkey King has some awesome lore and characters, but as far as the story goes, it fails to capture anything impressive. Once I learned the basics of this story, I was excited for the opportunities to show character development, but ultimately Deschamps kept the same attitude, rarely showing light of a nicer side, but it was always accompanied by a face of aggravation. The story tries its best to pick up at the end, and it does, but it feels like they had a good idea for an ending, but they had to scrap together a beginning. Learning that Enslaved and this game were based off the same novel gave me expectations because Enslaved was a grand adventure. But that was Ninja Theory, and this is THQ, and I still give props to it, and I'm glad to see they're back in action. Gameplay was where the fun kicks in though, so let's mosey on over there. Monkey King had very simple gameplay mechanics from platforming, combat, and upgrades. A game like this has no need for a wide variety of combos, so that's why you have basic attacks of heavy and light. The interesting part comes in when you light attack an enemy right before they hit you and you go into a button mashing scene called one-on-one. I'm not sure why they call it one-on-one. There can be more than one monster in that sequence, but hey, I'm not here to review their word phrases. Now this is a fun feature. Whenever this first happened to me, I remember saying, damn, this is cool. Now after completing the sequence, there's a little fun animation of the defeated enemy, and which is different per enemy. Now, if that doesn't sound appeasing to you, then you also have the option to use spells. Spells are a power you can use from summoning a kung fu chair, a staff, visions that allow you to see materials in the world that you can collect, enemies' health, and when to light attack to activate a one-on-one. The reason that these help so much is because when you activate a spell, time freezes until the spell is active. So when you have a boss that's just beating the lights out of you, you can use a spell to freeze time. One of my favorites was this one that caused a fiery explosion to do damage to them and they couldn't move. There aren't a lot of powers, but the ones you get are helpful. And there is one that actually comes in handy with platforming. It allows you to run on all fours while allowing you to run faster to avoid boulders. Now platforming in this game, I wouldn't say underdeveloped, I would say underused. Now I grew up on platforming and I love platforming, but this game, it was weird because the platforming was almost level specific. Some levels had a lot of platforming, where other levels, they had minimal. Now another plus they had in this game was the upgrading system. You upgrade by collecting red orbs from defeated enemies and going to the Guan Yin Shrine, and here you purchase unsealed spells and then upgrade them. The later ones do get pricey, but I do promise it is worth it. Now at this shrine you can also replay a location where you missed some collectible, and you can manually save your game. Another form of upgrading is turning in Earth Gods and upgrading your health, magic meter, and technique. Finding Earth Gods is easy since you can use your mind's eye to see the world items to collect, but halfway through the game you won't even bother because then you start to realize that the only enemies worth worrying about are the bosses, because honestly this game is rather easy. Now I died about 5 times this whole playthrough, and over half of those were due to a single boss. Part of the reason why this was kind of easy is because you could go to the little hair shop and purchase health potions, magic potions, and banners. Now banners, they would have different effects that they would do on enemies, so you could get out of a situation faster or just deal more damage. Now when you get to the little hair shop, you'll notice that it costs material and not money. And if you don't have enough of the material you need for whatever item you want, you just hop over to the exchange tab in her store and then exchange out materials you don't need for the ones you do need. Now with me saying this, let me also add that you do have two teammates, but they are about as useful as the corner of your dresser. The only reason these two things exist is to fill the surrounding area with screams. And yes, all your teammates do is run and scream and yell monster, monster, which I would be fine with if they didn't do it constantly. I mean, in a single fight, Lure is probably screaming 20 times. Now, gameplay is my favorite part of this game, but there are some other cool features, so let's go ahead and talk about the design, being sound, level, and enemy. The level design in this game is best described as a late Xbox 360 or PS3 game that has been enhanced. I honestly didn't mind the graphics, but one thing you gotta keep in mind is this game is $40, so it's not gonna be top notch. The layout of the levels were a straight path, so the areas you roam had more attention than the scenery beyond the paths, but that's fine because not every game has to have groundbreaking graphics, and so I like the style of this game. Enemy designs are that of a PS2 platformer, so not a whole lot of variety, and most of the variety comes from the characters being different colors or sizes. Normally I wouldn't care, but sometimes it did feel like they got a little lazy and threw 4 of the biggest enemies just to keep you busy during your time in a specific area. Daeshang also gave off the same vibe too. His character design was fine, but his facial expressions throughout the game were the same, even in his shining 30 seconds of fame moments where he was a half-hearted being. They were always the same. What I did like was the way the cutscenes worked. Rather than having a full motion cutscene, they did drawings of the cutscenes. Now I like art as much as the next, so I definitely appreciated this a lot. A nice little touch there. Now for the sound, there are a few things to mention here. The soundtrack wasn't anything that caught my attention. It was pretty much a standard soundtrack that just matched the background of the game. And that's fine because this game doesn't need a choir of 100 people singing while in a boss fight. Now, it's just not that type of game. Now, for the voice acting, I found it kind of strange. So sometimes I felt like I could recognize Daeshang's accent, and other times I couldn't. Now, this could be a part of the fact that character development was rather shallow. And lastly, before I hop off this design train, it is vital that I mention something in this game that it was a bummer. Overload of loads. I mean, there were so many load screens in this game. There are areas that they're not big at all, but the game, I guess, can't handle it. So you can see your destination, and to get there you gotta walk over a bridge or through an alley or whatever, but you're gonna come across this line that you have to hit circle to travel to. Even though you can literally see everything past that load barrier, you still have to go through the load screen. Now I don't know whose idea that was, but come on. So before I tell you the price tag, I always mention how much fun the game was. And this game was a blast. Sure, the platforming was underused, it still had some cool platforming areas, and on top of the combat being dumb simple fun. Is this a game I'll come back to? Probably not, but overall I had fun my initial playthrough. Now this game has some bumps, as every game does. It also has a season pass like most games, and for what reason? Probably the money. So I'm going to go ahead and give this game a $25 out of $40 price tag. It doesn't exactly need work, so to say. It should have just came with more. You know, the game, it could have been more. Now, more platforming, more enemy variations, and more care with the areas. So if you like this video, why not go ahead and subscribe? And if it was the worst thing you've seen since the live action Avatar movie, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down because that's bad. My name is Tanner, and this was a phenomenal gaming experience.